Having a development environment while building full stack web applications is very important. In this episode, we will see how to set up a development environment while building Vue.js and Node.js web app. So let's look at this diagram where Vue.js is running on port 5173 and Node.js is running on port 3080. But whenever you make some changes, it doesn't reflect automatically. So since we are using Vite tool, so it internally uses Webpack dev server. It watches all the files that you are changing, and it will reflect. Immediately it will deploy on the browser. But when it comes to Node.js API, there is no such mechanism. You have to have a tool called Nodemon. So you need to install this package, and you need to use this package to watch all the files that you are developing, and at the same time it will reflect or it will restart the server whenever there is a change in the files. Let's get into implementation. Let's get into the project which we have set up in the previous episode. So this is our project. Let's change the directory into UI and run the command npm run serve. Okay, since we are using a different tool called Vite, I think the Vite has a different command which starts the application in the development phase. So we used to have Vue CLI, which actually has the command serve, but here it's a dev. So all we need to do is npm run dev, and the application starts on the port 5173. Let's copy this URL and load this in the UI. You can actually see application running. And let's go to the components. If you open the components and change something, you will see that change instantly on the browser. It's because this Vite tool internally uses Webpack dev server, which watches all the files, and it loads all the files again on the browser. As you can see, the change is being rendered on the UI instantly. So that's the UI. Let's go to the API. So for the API, we need to open a separate terminal. Once you open a separate terminal, let's get into API folder. Once we are in that folder, let's start the application with npm start. So our API is running on port 3000, and if you change something here, that change doesn't reflect immediately because there is no mechanism for the API, since we have to configure a package called Nodemon. So you have to install that Nodemon first. Since it's a development phase, you have to install that as a development dependency. Let's run the install command, and it gets added to the dev dependency object. So copy the usage, copy that command, and go to the package.json. We can add that as npm scripts. Since our API is running on port 3000, we have to change that port from 8080 to 3000. And also our main file here is index.js. Change that as well. And the port 3000. Let's change that as well. Now if you run the command, you can see Nodemon logs where it watches all the files. And if you load the page, you can see the change immediately. Go to the index.js and change something again. as you can see, it watches the files and it prints all the logs, and if you reload the page, you can see that updated message. And there is another, if there are so many configurations that you want to maintain, or configuration flags or configurations, you can maintain a separate file called nodemon.json. If you have nodemon.json, you don't have to put all that in the npm scripts. Sometimes when you have a lot of configurations, it becomes bigger. So instead of that, you can have a nodemon.json, which is a cleaner way. If you have a nodemon.json, you don't have to, all you need to do is you just put nodemon. So let's change something, and we can see that updated message instantly. So the another thing that you need to remember here, so nodemon looks for the main file from the package.json. If you change the name from index.js to index1.js, it doesn't work. It will throw the error. So the main from the package.json and your main file should match. And let's test the delay as well. Let me put 5 seconds here. So when you have 5 seconds delay, if you change something, it will wait for 5 seconds and it reflects after that, whatever the time interval that you specify in that nodemon.json. So as you notice, it is not printing the logs immediately when you change. It is printing the logs after some delay, which is 5 seconds here. And you can actually see the changes on the browser. And there are so many options. You can look at the page, nodemon package page, where you can actually see there are so many events, start event, and other events where you can listen to those events and you can do something. And also you can print all the logs to separate files as well. So this is also a very useful feature when you do not want to print all the logs into your standard output. If you want to maintain a log file to see all the changes, you can print those to the log file. Okay, that is how you set up development environment for API and UI. You need to maintain 2 separate folders. One is for API, one is for UI. And UI should be running on one port and API should be running on another port. And that way your development will be easier, and it is very easy for you to maintain as well. And thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.